Welcome to Robotics and Automation News webinars, where you can be part of a global event without leaving your home or office. Attend our live webinars and communicate directly with influential professionals in your industry.
Hello, my name is Abdul Muntakim. I'm editor of Robotics and Automation News.com. In this video, I interview Brad Bogolea, co-founder and CEO of Simbe Robotics. Simbe specialises in making robots for the retail industry. Its Tallu robot is designed to roam the aisles of a store and take stock of products.
My name is Brad Bogolea, and I'm the CEO at Simbe Robotics. At Simbe, we're all about providing physical retailers and brands with a better understanding of what's actually happening in their stores, and we do that through our autonomous mobile robot Tallu, coupled with computer vision software and a set of cloud-based services. The specific problem we're really aligned around is what we often call this data gap or blind spot in physical retail, where retailers have a good sense of supply chain intelligence, and they have a good sense of point of sale, what they sell, but what's actually happening on the shelves is sort of a bit of a mystery.
Yeah, I've heard of it, Simbe. It's I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Simbe is I don't know, probably quite well known. It's probably got a higher profile than other retail robots companies. And I'm not really sure how many companies are in this field anyway. It's a very new market and new field. What's been your experience? Tell us how you started and how you got to this point where I think you're probably either on the verge of enjoying some success or already enjoying some success.
Yeah, absolutely. We started the company about 4 years ago with kind of the core mission of bringing, advanced technology like robotics and data-driven strategies to kind of traditional industry. And that's what really led us to retail and this problem of, better understanding what's happening on store shelves. When you look at the physical retail market as a whole, physical retail stores, haven't changed much, since the cash register or the barcode. So bringing this type of technology into the space, at least initially, was a bit of a process. But we're seeing lots of dynamics changing within the retail space. You of course have aspects like Amazon buying Whole Foods, the consumer having much stronger preferences on, click and collect or click and delivery sort of grocery services, wanting more sort of instant gratification. So it's important for, physical retailers to leverage, more digital strategies in the physical space. And, we thought Tallu was a great way to do that. So if you fast forward to today, we have relationships with more than a dozen retailers across the globe. So we have robots deployed across the US and places like France, Spain, Japan. Most of these retailers today fit within what we would call sort of the fast-moving consumer goods space. So most of the retailers have a grocery component. They may have a store that has a hypermarket or mass market format, so maybe larger. They may also have sort of drugstore or value chain, smaller format stores. In addition, our solution Tallu really has two sensing capabilities. One, which is computer vision based, which is really great for packaged goods and looking at shelf tags and understanding the layout of a store. But when it comes to products like soft lines or soft goods, clothing, RFID is a better solution for taking precise inventory. So we work with other clients like Decathlon, the world's largest sporting goods retailer, to help them take precise inventory in their stores. In addition, we have partnerships with folks like SoftBank's Robotics Group, where we're working together with them on deploying Tallu in markets like Asia and Japan. while also leveraging their experience. They've deployed more than 25,000 of their robots around the world. So leveraging, their services capabilities to kind of extend our reach when we move into new markets.
Okay, just to clarify for listeners or viewers who are not familiar with the robot, it basically, as far as I understand it, it basically is a wheeled robot. It wanders around the aisles of a shop and looks at the stock, sees which product lines are running low or run out, and it makes a note of things like that, so the store managers can run the store more effectively, efficiently, and without having to do that part of the job manually themselves. Have I got that right? And is there any other specific function that the robot has?
That's absolutely it. So Tallu is a fully autonomous mobile robot platform that's designed to actually operate in stores during normal store hours. So we've logged tens of thousands of miles in physical retail stores. Tallu works by just going up and down the aisles and captures essentially high quality imagery and sensor data from the store shelves to, just as you just described, define whether product is stocked, it's in the right place, does it have the right price. On the computer vision side, with elements like RFID, taking precise inventory counts throughout the store, so reading the RFID tags. And then we make that information available through our own set of cloud services. So we have a web application where retailers can monitor the fleets of robots that they have in their stores, as well as we make that information accessible through a standard set of web service-based APIs, so they can provide that information in real time to their store teams.
So what used to happen before? I mean, I know the basic, the job of a human would have been, they look at the product, see which ones are running low, have run out, and they stock it up and do that part of the job. I don't know if there is any bit more detail. I mean, you would have looked into that part of the job thoroughly yourself before in the development of this robot. And what are the things that this robot does that maybe the human doesn't? Is it faster? Is it more accurate? Or what are the changes? What are the efficiency gains, perhaps, or anything that you can say that illustrates the difference between a human doing that job and this robot doing that job?
Absolutely. So, both retailers and brands, work independently to kind of get, shelf intelligence today. The challenge, of course, is, us leveraging essentially human labor to do this just really results in too much missed opportunities. Some of that's really just a function of, retail stores sell a large amount of product. Many of these stores have tens of thousands, if not 100,000 products, and they undergo a significant amount of dynamic change every day. So the challenge, of course, is to dedicate human labor to these tasks. By the time you complete an audit, the store has really undergone sort of fundamental change. So we typically see it takes about 20 human hours to audit about every 10,000 products. Whereas, a solution like Tallu can typically do a full store environment, which may be something of sort of 30 to 50,000 products and in sort of 1 to 2 hours. So with retail being a sort of margin constrained business and really wanting to focus on optimal customer service, we provide the opportunity to kind of free the retail associates up from this, mundane auditing task to really spend more time in engaging customers. So that's really the strategy there.
And is there another function? I can't remember whether maybe I'm getting it confused with another one. I'll edit out the superfluous things like my questions. But Does it do things like suggest alternative layouts and alternative product placements in order to make things more effective? I can't remember whether I read that somewhere. I don't know if you can explain that.
Yeah, so absolutely. The type of data that's collected enables retailers to, better understand placement effectiveness of products. So if we look at the big picture problem from a retail perspective, the biggest missed opportunity is a product not being on shelf when a customer wants to purchase it. Often that can be sort of 1 out of 10 products on a customer list in today's retail environment. If that item is on promotion, sometimes it's close as 2 out of 10. And a large portion of Amazon's revenue today is, from people that actually went to a physical store first to find something and they weren't able to find it. The second problem, which you're really sort of referencing, is really better understanding shelf performance. So today, retailers are really mostly analyzing sort of point of sale intelligence and shopper insights to understand what's happening in the store. But with information from a solution like Tally and the frequency and fidelity at which we capture it, it helps retailers to understand the effectiveness of their shelf layouts. Which products are actually moving off of shelves at the highest velocity, where you might have shelf space that's not being optimally used, missing or sort of wrong or obsolete pricing or promotional tags, all things that will affect consumer behavior.
What was the development like? If you could give us an insight into the development of what is obviously quite a complex, sophisticated machine, both in terms of software as well as the hardware. What's that journey been like for you?
And absolutely. So, when we started the company, some interesting background. Our core technical team actually came out of a world-renowned robotics think tank called Willow Garage. And Willow Garage had built a tool called the Robot Operating System, which is really a framework to make it easier to build, deploy, and manage, robotics applications, and has really become sort of the de facto standard in building robotic solutions. So our team had a lot of experience in bringing robotics applications to market. So that was to our advantage. But we took a very agile-based approach in sort of building the product. In the early days, when we were just a few people, we established our first retail relationships, and we're really sort of bringing prototypes into stores. And the big questions that we received was, this prototype is interesting. It of course provides high-quality data that could be meaningful to us, but the classic question for a startup is, will you be in business in 18 months, and can you actually productize this? And of course, we knew we could. So essentially, we went heads down from a company perspective and really focused on the production development of Tally version 1, which was announced in late 2015, early 2016. And then based upon the experience of that product out in market, we've moved on to essentially Tally version 2. But to your point, lots of unique challenges that we've encountered from a organizational perspective. Lots of people don't have experience in manufacturing things like robotics. We've seemed to find a sweet spot with those folks that have great experience in areas like automotive and sort of sensor or safety equipment. Other aspects is, given that we sell to the largest, 250 retailers on the planet, it was important for the company to demonstrate commercial viability. So us being well capitalized, as well as having, essentially a proven solution in the market. So much of our focus in the early days was really getting to that point. And now, from an organizational perspective, we have lots of great case studies to share from our existing client base, and it's been much easier to develop the market.
Well, I can't see how you could go wrong with the concept, at least, as you said yourself. You've got a human doing the job which takes 20 hours to check the shelves. If the robot can do it in an hour or two, then, I mean, what more can you say beyond that? I thought I mean, I don't know much about development of anything, software or hardware, but I've heard of things like machine vision and machine learning. And I'm guessing that is quite crucial to this robot working. Can you clarify that or correct me if I'm wrong?
Absolutely. So we make strong use of machine learning, computer vision, deep learning capabilities. So to dive deeper, it's best to understand really how Tally's working in the environment. So there's kind of two aspects where we heavily leverage machine vision and machine intelligence. One aspect is, how do we develop a solution that can operate safely and reliably in a retail store? So that's a very similar problem, and actually arguably a more simple problem than you would see autonomous vehicles on the road solve for. But we use similar sensor technology, similar techniques we need to be able to map and understand a retail store environment. The Tally robot needs to have strong 360-degree visibility around it to detect a shopping cart coming down the aisle or a small child in its vicinity, and really develop behaviors that allow us to yield and really defer to sort of customer and employee traffic in the environment. So there's a lot of machine learning based sort of capabilities used on that side. The other aspect is essentially on the shelf intelligence. So much like a human would audit a shelf with their own eyes and identify an empty region where product may not be present or that this shelf tag is incorrect, we essentially leverage high quality 2D and 3-dimensional data from the store shelves, which we then deconstruct using a computer vision processing pipeline that we've built from the ground up. And that allows us to deconstruct the shelf in ways that we know where the shelf starts and ends horizontally and vertically. We know where all the products reside. We know where all the empty regions are. We know if product is recessed. We know where all the price tags exist. We were able to decode them both from a barcode and optical character recognition perspective. So we essentially combine this understanding we develop of sort of the shelf scene into what we call a detections model. And based upon that detections model, we're then able to make thoughtful deductions about what product is not on shelf if a price is incorrect, and those sorts of things.
And what's your background yourself? I mean, is it in software or hardware development or business? What's your...
Yeah, so my personal background, I've been involved in kind of at the intersection of enterprise hardware and software for over the last decade, almost 15 years. I had actually got my start in sort of entrepreneurship and building ventures in sort of the energy management and wireless sensor space, and actually helping some of the world's largest energy utilities, rethink some of their processes. And it was actually kind of a similar use case in a sense, where energy utilities used to send people out to read meters. Whereas, in sort of the modern era, why not just sort of instrument these meters with wireless sensor technology, and you can get, higher quality information to better manage the grid, as well as provide more thoughtful information to the energy consumer. So you can kind of see parallels to the retail problem here, where today both retailers and brands send people into the store to kind of perform shelf audits, but that is a process that we're essentially automating and instrumenting. So my experience in operating and selling technology to some of the largest energy utilities on the planet has helped primed us well to selling to a different but equally large and equally complex market segment, and that is retail.
And I'm looking at your website and I'm seeing a lot of really impressive numbers. I know you've mentioned them at the beginning of the interview, some of the numbers, but looking at here, 15,000 plus miles traveled in store, 300 million products and shelves tagged and analyzed, and so on. I'll try and put that in the video as graphics possibly, or maybe some of the material that I find might be able to drop in. But I was wondering about the fundraising or the startup capital. I can't remember whether you talked about that, and also any numbers that you can share in terms of that kind of aspect of it, in terms of how much revenue you project to have, or anything like that going forward, projections possibly.
Yes, absolutely. So today, Simbe is a venture-backed company. We're headquartered in San Francisco, California, but we have an operating presence across the U.S. And then in Europe, and then through our partners like SoftBank and in places like Asia. We haven't disclosed the total amount of venture capital raised to date. We've actually operated very capital efficient compared to most robotics companies. And in addition, we've made heavy leverage of sort of non-dilutive capital sources, especially if we have signed sort of customer contracts for things like inventory in hand, looking at non-dilutive sources to grow the business. But we have about 15 different venture investors involved in the company today. As far as market projections, to date we work with more than a dozen of the largest retailers across the globe. We're servicing them with a fleet today. 3 of those clients have executed scale deployment contracts, which means they have intent to go to most, if not all, of their stores. The rest of our clients are sort of in sort of the pilot phase, evaluating the technology, proving the business case, looking to move to scale deployment. When we think about a market perspective, our target market, as mentioned before, is really the largest 250 global retailers. When we look at that accounts for about 500,000 physical stores. And if we look at sort of, our operating plan and sort of our targets, we think this market could support, upwards of 25,000 units in the next sort of 4 or 5 years. And, the beauty of selling to a small finite group of customers that have an immense global reach, like the largest retailers in the planet, is, after you've kind of made that sale, it's, you're scaling out to a large number of stores. So this business is really one that can really grow quite rapidly. Given that we're still private in nature, we do not, make our revenue or sort of margin information available at sort of this stage.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. I know that a lot of companies don't like to share even information to the extent that you have, especially if they're private. They're very coy about that. But yeah, it's a very exciting technology as well as market, because it just seems like the business case is so obvious. It seems like such a good idea. So I imagine that it is going to grow as a technology and as a market going forward. Recently, we published a story about I think Walmart ordered 1,500 floor cleaning robots for its stores. I know it's a completely different technology, it's a different type of robot, but it's just that retail is so big, employs so many people, has so much space, and it requires moving machines, unlike a lot of the tech that other websites write about. We write about machines that move and, you know, in 3D space along aisles and so on. So that it's a very, very exciting time to be in this sector. I don't know whether you can give me your overview and comment about this sector if you'd like to.
Yeah, very much so. I think, you know, we're really on the precipice of this robotics revolution. In fact, I believe it's already underway. And I think where, you know, really the strongest use cases reside today is, you know, use cases that are really focusing on, you know, sort of dull, dirty, mundane tasks, and also sort of deep data-driven strategies like ours. And I think, you know, as sort of robotics or sort of automation professionals, I think it's, you know, it's easy for us to get enamored with the technology, but it's really important to kind of focus on, you know, the customer, the use case, and the business case. So you've mentioned some fantastic use cases. You know, we agree. We think the, you know, floor scrubber or commercial cleaning, whether it's you know, sort of the mopping of the floors or vacuuming at a large scale, is a massive global business. We think, you know, use cases like warehouse automation is also a you know, sort of massive global business. So, you know, you're seeing many upstarts really across the globe, as well as, you know, the largest companies on the planet, people like Walmart, Amazon, and others, you know, FedEx, DHL, and others invest heavily in these types of solutions and technology. So we think it's a super exciting space. You know, it's an honor to be part of it. And, you know, we thank folks like you also for covering it and help educating sort of a broader audience about, you know, some of the things that are going on.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's we have our own interest in terms of we want to you know, get more readers for our website, and we're a business as well. I mean, it's very interesting, the enthusiasm for this type of technology and the field itself has carried us forward. We're not massively successful, and we're not talking any of the numbers. As you can imagine, websites and market, media market has been saturated for decades, so it's not an easy field to operate in or make a lot of money. And what you're doing is very new, very cutting edge. Very few companies are capable of doing things like you're doing. So it's you know, it's more of an opportunity for you. Yeah, I can't see it contracting or failing. I was quite intrigued by your comment earlier about startups not working out, or, you know, which is generally the case across all markets if you think about the aggregate. But this is a market, if you do things sensibly and right, I can't see you know, things going that badly wrong for you. I don't know if that's being me being ignorant or anything. But the question I suppose I can ask out of that is, what do you think you need to do in order to ensure your success? Because it does look a fairly good market, a growing market, and you seem to have a good solution. What are the steps you need to take in order to ensure that you get to where you want to go to? And where is it that you want to go to? I know you touched on some of the projections that you have, but what are the other things? Maybe different types of robots, separate products, or develop this particular product, or what is it? How do you see your next year or two, perhaps?
Yeah, absolutely. Our kind of key initiatives for growth are really focused around a couple different points, but the first is, you know, really extending our global reach. So, and of course, to do that, there may be capital requirements, partnership requirements, new product requirements, getting into new markets, whether it's, you know, certification or shelf for product or tag structure or localization requirements are different. So there's a set of initiatives, you know, throughout our company focused on those pieces. You know, other aspects are looking at, you know, how do we provide more value per store either with existing hardware or new hardware. One of the ways we've kind of done that is added additional capabilities to Tally. For example, one use case was adding RFID capabilities to our existing computer vision system. So that opened us up to a new market segment. But if we're taking inventory in stores and you look at something like the grocery segment, today we're primarily focused on packaged goods, but how do we extend ourselves to perhaps things like produce or, safety, or sort of cleanliness of the environment, security, these types of aspects. There's lots of other operational problems in a retail store, for us to sort of focus on. And then the third piece is, the data set we're developing is incredibly valuable, not only to the retailers, but to folks like the brands. Of course, the Unilevers and Procters and Gambles of the world love to understand their shelf performance, understanding their product's position versus their competitors. Some product is delivered directly in store by brands, so we can provide them greater intelligence on optimal routing in these sorts of things. But this data is actually valuable to consumers as well. So you think about it, Tally's actually building a high quality map of these retail store environments, and a challenge that every retail consumer across the planet experience is where in a store is a particular product located, and we know to a few centimeter level accuracy where every product is in a physical store. And today we have our clients, retail clients, are beginning to leverage our data in things like their consumer mobile apps to help with use cases like wayfinding. So not only is Tally's data being used to help ensure the product is on the shelf and stocked in the right place and has the right price, but this information is also being used to help guide the customer to essentially get there.
Is there anything essential that I didn't ask about that you want to add?
I think we covered most of the key pieces. I think, the last piece I would end with is in something that's really unique, I think, about our company or sort of our application is, we have sort of the unique opportunity to bring robotics to an environment that most people frequent on sort of a daily or weekly basis. There's lots of robotics technology deployed in places like, industrial automation and automotive plants, warehouse automation, where, employees might see it there. But, we become one of the sort of more interesting sort of mass market use cases for, people that are going out and getting milk, bread, or juice, actually having a shopping experience alongside a robotics technology that is helping to improve that experience sort of overall. So, we're thrilled to sort of have that opportunity and, help educate folks on, how robots can really be power tools and work in conjunction with people to, really provide a better experience.
Okay, thank you very much, Brad, for your time.
Send us an email at sales@roboticsandautomationnews.com to register for one of our many upcoming webinars. And if you'd like us to host your webinar, we have a range of options, including long-term lead generation packages and marketing campaigns. We look forward to hearing from you soon.